For me, it's always about taking him out of his comfort zone and trying to show audiences something that they haven't seen before, you know? And we've seen a lot of Spider-Man swinging around New York City, so to get him out, not just of New York City, but to get him out of the United States and take him on this crazy European tour, just felt like it would be something fun to watch. This movie is about Spider-Man going from being a friendly neighborhood hero and suddenly being forced out onto the world stage. So to have him be in Europe mirrored that in a way that I thought was interesting. Dealing with the fallout from Endgame, I mean, Peter's in this situation where he's lost his mentor, he's disappeared and then come back 5 years later. Like, everything is kind of crazy, but what I think is so endearing is that despite all that, the thing that he's focused on at the very beginning of the movie is going on this class trip and telling MJ how he feels. So there's something kind of sweet about that. It is a really fun development process as someone who knew all of the things that were going to happen in Infinity War and in Endgame to be writing the movie concurrently as those were being shot and edited. So, you know, they were doing all these crazy things, and then it was my job to figure out a way to explain them and see how they were going to affect my world. There's kind of two types of Spider-Man villains in the comics. There's characters that he has a personal relationship with that makes fighting them difficult, and then there are characters who just challenge him physically in a way that make things difficult for him. And when he's fighting these things that are essentially natural disasters, you know, you can't do much with webs when you're fighting water and when you're fighting fire. It was just a good challenge, I felt, for him. Jake's great. I mean, he brings so much to the role, and he's so smart, and he can do anything. So, yeah, it was like an absolute joy cracking this character together. To be able to just draw from this extremely rich library of films and just pick your favorite characters and put them all together and see what happens, you know, you just feel like, you know, it's like a fan's dream come to life.
After the events of Infinity War and Endgame, he is a very different person. He's been through a lot, something that none of us can really relate to. And Spider-Man, to him, has become a bit of a chore. You know, he decides to sort of hang up the suit and go on holiday and enjoy his time with his friends and just be a young adult and be someone who's enjoying their life and learning who they are and finding out where they belong in the world. But throughout the course of the movie, he realizes he's already found out where he belongs, and that's in the Spider-Man suit, and that's with the responsibility of saving his neighborhood and saving the city, and in some cases, saving the world. I think he did a great job with that in Homecoming, with it being a lighthearted film, with it being a funny film, but without sacrificing the emotion or the drama that superhero films warrant, you know? And I think this film does that in a stronger way, because it's funnier than the first one, but the stakes are higher and it's more emotional, so it's bigger and better in every way possible. I loved working with Sam. I really, really enjoyed working with Sam. It was a lot of fun. Obviously, in the film, Peter Parker is very intimidated by Sam Jackson. Tom Holland might have been a little bit intimidated by Sam Jackson, but he's a lovely guy, and he was really welcoming, and we bonded over golf. We both played golf. It was just cool for me to bring Spider-Man into a bigger part of the MCU. Every time I get to do a scene with one of these veterans who have been there since the beginning, it's just really exciting because we're solidifying the fact that this character exists in a bigger world, and there's endless possibilities. Happy Hogan is one of my favorite characters from the MCU, and when I found out that he'd be coming back for Spider-Man Far From Home, I was just over the moon because I love the energy he brings to the films. And everyone says Robert is the godfather of the MCU, but Favreau is like, he's the mastermind. Him and Kevin, they made the first movie and the second movie, so I loved picking his brains about that. But Happy Hogan in this film sort of has a little bit of a thing with Aunt May, which Peter isn't too sure about, but he's not mad about it either because he really likes Happy. But Happy Hogan takes on a huge responsibility throughout this film. Jacob was fantastic in the first one, but he had gone away after making Spider-Man Homecoming and made a few new films, and when he came onto set for Spider-Man Far From Home, he meant business. He was so good, and when we finished the first scene with him, everyone was blown away by how great he was, and he improvised for 2 minutes straight, and all of it was great. Because you often find when people improvise that you're like, oh, come on mate, this is really rubbish, you're just wasting film now. And Jacob filled a clip of just gold, and I hope all of it makes the film because it was so funny, and I was in stitches behind the camera. It's always a real privilege to get to work with your friends, and even more so when you see them doing so well and you see them absolutely knocking it out of the park. So I love Jacob to bits, and I love working with him, and it's just one of the highlights of this movie.
He's also so physical. He's incredible dancer. He moves like it's insane. I mean, the first day that one of the first days we were working together, he decided to enter the scene by, jumping on a trampoline and doing a backflip and then landing right in front of me, because just to finish off the movement that his character does. You hear about a lot of these people who've played Spider-Man in the past, and nobody is as physical as he is, and no one commits to the physicality like he does. And he is there with all the stunt crew, with second unit, doing his stunts, as many as he can. And, he's just fully committed. And I think people feel that. And I think he's just, if you can't tell already, I think he's great. As a director, as a filmmaker, I would imagine that it's very, very hard to inject your originality into a world that's already composed. And yet somehow Jon has the ability to do that in every single moment in this film, and also he allows the actors, truly allows the actors to have room. And there were a number of days I come on set and I'd say, oh, I'm thinking about, he'd be like, just, whatever, I'm just setting the camera so you can do what you want to do, what you just explore. And you would think on a film like this, there would be, and particularly because this is his second Spider-Man film, but it really is, he hasn't made many films. So to have a filmmaker with such maturity and such assuredness in what he wanted, and yet also to give actors who are, we're all pretty complex, the ability to play inside a space, says a lot about him. I have told Jon a number of times throughout shooting that I want to make another movie with him. I think what makes Tom Holland such a good Spider-Man is that he has a genuinely good heart. I think he is kind and empathetic, and at the same time also has a real edge to him. I don't think he just takes everything that comes to him. I think he has a great attitude and a great sense of humor. But I think at the heart of him, he is truly empathetic. And everything that he does comes from a place of wondering about what someone else feels.